Morning guys, so today I'm finally back on the wards and I just wanted to show you guys what I get up to during my placement. This term I'm starting off on Module C, which consists of specialties like oncology, ophthalmology, geriatrics, and psychiatry. And so from those ones though, I'm starting off with psychiatry. And so the way that psychiatry works is that it's 6 weeks. Those 6 weeks are broken down to 3 weeks which are on ward and 3 weeks which are off ward. I'm technically on the off ward portion of that, but there is this 1 week in this off ward portion where you're in the Liason Psychiatry Unit at the hospital. And how that sort of department works is when someone gets admitted for any sort of problem, so if they came in with a heart attack or if they came in with pneumonia or something, and then they also had pre-existing mental health conditions or maybe developmental health conditions when they were there, they would be referred to the psychiatric department, and then we would go over and see the patient and see what we could do to help them get better. I'd say it's pretty different from the rotations that we had last year, because last year we were more focused on I suppose like physical conditions when we were on like cardio or rest. And so it's nice to see something different and to focus on the mental side of things. But let's cut the chat and let's head out now to the hospital. So instead of heading into like the main part of the hospital, I've got to head into like this building which is just around the corner called the Grove Center. And annoyingly enough, my access card doesn't work to get me in there. I've got to like call this number when you get outside the door. In the morning, before we go off to follow the doctors and to go see the patients, sometimes we might go through the patient notes on the hospital computers here, and that just kind of helps us get a better idea of what's actually going on. Also, when we go up into the wards, there's a lot more precautions just to protect us and also to protect the patients as well. So for example, there's loads of like alcohol gels throughout the corridor, and then before you go and see a patient, you have to wear an apron, you have to wear a mask, you have to wear gloves. And you do that even if you're not coming into close contact with the patient. And once you're done with that, you take that off and you wash your hands after seeing each patient, and then you can move on. So I'm glad to see all these sort of like steps in place because it helps me feel a lot more safe, especially if you're in the hospital. There's also like masks throughout the hospital, so if you get one dirty, you can easily just change it. So I'm done with seeing patients for the morning now, and I'm off to lunch. So I'm gonna head off to the canteen and I'm gonna try find my partner Nora. So in the afternoon, there's a handover at about 1 p.m. where we discuss the patients that we saw earlier in the morning, and then we try to raise up any urgent issues for patients that we have to see later on in the afternoon. And I'd say the best part about this placement is actually just being able to follow around the doctors, you know, ask them whatever you want, whether it's to do with like the clinical science side of things, or it's just like, you know, what they actually get up to on a day-to-day basis. I've been really lucky in this placement to follow around a bunch of different doctors, and unfortunately I can't actually film on the wards. So instead, to kind of give a little bit of insight onto what this sort of rotation is like, I actually filmed one of the doctors and I got him to answer a few things. So here's that bit. On this sort of rotation, like it's difficult to film on the wards and things like that. So to kind of get more insight, I just wanted to kind of grill the doctor I'm attached to a little bit about like what I actually have to do. So this is Will, you're CT3, right?
That's right, yeah.
And so, well, I just wanted to ask you, so before I did psychiatry, I didn't really know too much beyond like, you know, helping with mental health, but could you tell me more about like what a psychiatrist actually does?
I think, I guess I was the same as you before, like you didn't really have an idea of what psychiatry is. I guess the best way of describing it really is we tend to look at like mental health, I suppose, but we're looking at more maybe the more kind of clinical side of things. So we look at conditions like schizophrenia, bipolar, depression, things that usually we can use things like medication to help with. But the kind of big thing about psychiatry is that medication is never going to be kind of the big like solution for everything. So it tends to encompass using a lot of kind of psychological skills, talking skills, communication, with kind of your medical knowledge about medications and recognizing symptoms and kind of treating people.
What would you say then is like the thing that like, you know, is the most enjoyable thing or like the most interesting thing about your job now then?
The best thing about psychiatry is definitely the patients. I don't think in any other speciality you get any patients that are like so different. So every single patient's got a completely different story, a completely different reason for why they're doing things, or the way that they kind of, how they've got to where they are now. And it just creates like this different kind of, I guess, like management way of working, in that you have to look at each individual person, see what works for them, what hasn't worked for them, and how you can help them really.
And just the last thing I wanted to ask you, which is, so like in med school, I know that loads of students, and just in general, loads of students get quite stressed and they do feel quite anxious at times. But then, you know, now that we're, you know, you're teaching me about anxiety and like all these different conditions, you know, when would it be, or like what kind of things would you look out for to kind of indicate, oh, maybe that's time to maybe get some more help?
Get some help, yeah. I guess the thing of like things like anxiety is, and I know we talked a bit about this before, is that anxiety is normal. Like everyone has to experience anxiety. It's how we get things done. For example, medical students, you have to be anxious about exams, or you'll never sit down to revise for them. When the problem starts is when that anxiety starts getting in the way of normal things that you do in your life. So if now you're too anxious to leave your house, or you're too anxious to go and speak to people, that's when things start to become a problem, and that's when you need to be thinking, okay, maybe I need a bit of help or support with this. It might not be so easy to see, and I guess anxious people are less likely to ask for help, so sometimes it's kind of paying attention to the people around you as well and seeing what they're saying.
That's it. Thanks so much.
No worries.
Guess who I find?
You filming?
It's been too long since I've vlogged properly, so I don't know what to say. You guys want to say hi? Hi, Justina. Zara, this is finally your debut. What do you want to say? This is someone who's wanted to be in the videos, who I wanted to put in the videos since like day one.
You wanted to.
I wanted to, but I didn't. For the last thing I have today, I have this teaching from like 4 to 5. It's an online teaching, so I have to do it at home. But before I do that, I want to pick up some pastries from M&S because they're super good and they're super yummy. And I think I'll grab one for my flatmate as well. I'm back home now, and I have one last thing to do today, which is this lecture or tutorial, which is like on anxiety from like 4 to 5, and I'm just gonna watch it with my flatmate and eat the thing from the pastry from M&S. Whoops.
This is a perfect.
It's been a while.
It's been 2 days now.
How do you feel?
Really? Good.
Okay. So after the anxiety panic disorder tutorial, I went to the gym, and then I came back, had some dinner, which I finished over there, and then I actually did another workout, like an ab workout with my flatmate, and we've been doing the Chloe Ting ab workout, and we tried another one by Blogilates, and these ab workouts are actually way harder than they actually look. Like it looks like, you know, a bunch of random movements for like 10 minutes, but it's really hard to actually keep up and like keep your form well when you're doing it. Props to anyone who can actually do it properly. Yes, I'm feeling pretty tired. I know it's only like my first proper week back, but I think I'm slowly building up the stamina to, you know, being in hospital, seeing patients, you know, speaking to doctors and just doing things like that. I'll slowly build back into it and I'm looking forward to it. But that pretty much wraps up this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, me being back on the wards. And until then, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.